One of my greatest fascinations in life is the Joe Rogan podcast, the greatest podcast of all time, full of the most interesting guests of all time. And one such guest was Owen Benjamin, a guy who I didn't really realize had quite a lore before I went into making this video.
Just lost $7,500 for my views on transgender children. Is that what he initially got canceled for?
He's basically a comedian who got canceled because of a controversial take he gave on trans kids, which I feel like his take in general was pretty easy to defend and support. But since then, he's kind of been on an interesting mental spiral. He's been in an interesting mental state where he says a lot of crazy stuff.
How can you follow Joe Rogan? He's 5'6".
His Twitter account is a real riot, I will say that much.
He made a cartoon?
Dude, what are we watching? And so today I thought it'd be interesting to go through one of the more impactful moments from his history and talk about maybe why he ended up the way he did and how he differs from other people like Shane Gillis.
If I get fired here, whatever, I'll just go do Joe Rogan next week and I'll be fine.
Oh, dude, this part is so brutal. And the video we're taking a look at today is by Too Lazy to Try, where he talks about this. And yeah, let's get into it. All right, chat. Next thing I wanted to look at today is this guy named Owen Benjamin. Now, Owen Benjamin is somebody who is a comedian. He's a spokesperson. He's a political guy. And I want to try to learn about him today through a video from one of my favorite channels, Too Lazy to Try. Talked about basically his entire arc and how he, I guess, in Too Lazy to Try's view, canceled himself. Now, I tend to be very against cancel culture person, so I don't know if I'm going to agree with that perspective entirely, but that is what's being talked about right now. So we're going to go over this. Well, when I say right now, I mean a year ago, but I'm trying to educate myself about some of these different alternative media figures that I kind of missed the boat on. How Owen Benjamin canceled himself.
Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about comedian Owen Benjamin and how he let cancel culture consume his life and basically destroy his career, and why you never really hear from him anymore. If you remember this guy, he had a pretty good career going for him. He started getting some big movies and TV shows, and it looked like things were really trending upwards for him. He was also friends with Joe Rogan, and he went on his podcast, and he was starting to be a regular guest on there, and he had his own podcast.
How do you cancel yourself while being friends with Joe Rogan? It seems like a very difficult thing to do. I mean, Joe Rogan is like the king of having people on who are controversial, are sort of firecrackers, right? Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, right? All these people who are very controversial people. So it seems kind of difficult to cancel yourself as a result and even be tangentially related to Joe Rogan, but I guess we'll find out.
So it looked like he's going to be part of that whole LA comedy podcast scene and just go that route.
What a profitable scene to be a part of, by the way. It seems like if Joe Rogan really likes you, you can get your fucking career made. Like, the Joe Rogan podcast is so big and so many people listen to it that if you have like 3 favorable Joe Rogan appearances over the course of like 2 years, you can make like easily hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars every single year. You basically made it, right? I mean, not only like comedians, but also like various, cultural figures who come on his show to discuss their perspectives. Obviously, a lot of people have careers before they go on Joe Rogan, and, that's how they get on in the first place. But, if they manage to get on and it goes well and they look likable, then like they could be set for a very long time because of that. It's a very big audience there. I mean, I know personally that I know people in my personal life, usually older people, who, they listen to Joe Rogan, and then through Joe Rogan, they get down like this rabbit hole where they're listening to like Sean Ryan's podcast, or listening to Jocko Willink, David Goggins, Tim Dillon, Shane Gillis, various people that go on. If they're likable to Joe and his audience, they can transition that very well.
Where you just do everyone else's podcast, promoting your own podcast, and you just coast from there. But instead, he just got way too caught up in the whole culture war and politics and cancel culture.
No!
Even too much for Joe Rogan. That's how you know when it's bad. Joe loves to talk about that stuff.
Dude, Joe loves it. Joe loves talking about cancel culture, pronouns, DEI. He loves talking about that shit. It's like his favorite talking point. How do you talk about it so much that you annoy him? That's all he wants to talk about.
But Owen Benjamin was even too much for Joe to handle when it came to that. So eventually Joe...
Russ Ulbricht on JRE going to go so hard. Do you think that's going to happen? I wouldn't be surprised if it did. That'd be pretty interesting.
Had to stage an intervention because Owen was addicted to Twitter, and Joe thought he wasn't very good at expressing himself on there, and I don't think Joe really wanted to be associated with some of the stuff he was saying, even though obviously originally Joe was supportive of him. I mean, he had him on the podcast 3 times, and the second time he had him on, it was big because it was right after Owen got canceled and everyone in Hollywood was trying to blacklist him. I think he lost a TV deal, he lost his agent, I think he lost some stand-up gigs. So his career did take a pretty big hit, and he's probably done in Hollywood, but...
Just lost $7,500 for my views on transgender children. Is that what he initially got canceled for? A notice to cancel the comedy show featuring Owen Benjamin
On September 25th, 2017, Owen turned to social media to express views on certain marginalized communities. As the comments continued on the evening of September 26th, the tone and remarks became increasingly negative in sentiment. Sabag does not believe that this comedian will garner the attendance of undergraduate students on the night of the event. They have a mission of bringing acts that will cater to the undergraduate students at services, and they would like to go in another direction. Is that all he said? Did he really just say that he doesn't like transgender? The idea of kids being on hormones? Is that what he said? What did he initially... What were the comments, I guess, is my question. It might be a nightmare to find it now because I'm sure there's a lot of search results for Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin, 2017. Check the news for this. ADL is an article on him? Oh, God. Obviously, Wikipedia isn't entirely accurate, but there might be some starting point here. They say he's a part of the alt-right. Is he really? White nationalism? In October 2017, Benjamin tweeted his opposition to providing transgender children with hormone therapy, repeatedly referring to an NPR host as a child molester for raising a transgender child. Interesting. What did he directly say? Is my question, I guess. He got dropped by his agency after a video of a stand-up set about the insanity of transgendered children. Classic comedy goldmine circulated widely. Okay. Hey, at Prime Video, did you know this dude has been harassing me and calling me a child molester because I have a transgender kid? Is that consistent with your values? So this guy tweeted at him. Page doesn't exist. Can I do a Wayback Machine on this guy? Although it doesn't look like this is directly the tweet. It looks like this is from some other account. Not archived. Great. I mean, to be honest with you, I would agree with his stance on transgender children. Should he even call that guy a child molester? Maybe not, but, you know, I don't think that children should be given hormones. So, I mean, the base opinion, as crazy as what he said was, I would generally agree with that. Well, his wiki article is nuts. American conspiracy theorist and internet personality known for promoting white supremacy, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and neo-Nazism. Really?
But a canceled comedian, I mean, that's like a badge of honor. It's nothing to really worry about. As long as you have Joe Rogan backing you, which Joe was. Like right after this happened, Joe had him on the podcast. He said he supports him. He agrees with him. The cancel culture stuff is out of hand. So Owen got canceled because he was on Twitter tweeting about this NPR host who had a child that I think was like 3 years old, who they're allowing to transition. And he's talking about how...
3 years old? This is my whole thing. It's like when you're 3 years old, I just don't believe that you can possibly know that you're transgender or that anyone else can know. You're 3. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You just learned to talk.
How messed up he thinks that is. I think he called it child abuse. You know, I don't have the exact tweets here, but it didn't seem like he said anything that extreme. I think most people would kind of agree with him. But obviously in Hollywood, you're not allowed to say that kind of thing. And this was pretty much at the peak of cancel culture. So Joe had Owen on to talk about the whole situation and talk about being canceled.
So there was this guy who has a 3-year-old boy that he claimed was transgendered and identified as a girl and started, planning on giving him hormone therapy so they don't go through puberty. And this dude has...
No, dude. And I remember at the time there was this big cope. It was like, oh, you can always reverse it. The hormone blockers are reversible. As soon as you get off them, you'll resume puberty. And it's like, dude, that's just not how it works. If you fuck up your hormones from the time you're 3 to 18 years old and you then get off them, your puberty will not then just happen naturally and you'll just instantly grow the way you were supposed to in every direction, right? Like that does not make sense. It stunts your growth, obviously. Puberty is such a critical time. There are certain things that are just not going to change and be able to be developed after a certain point.
It's like power in Hollywood, and I just called him out, and I
You do not have conscious thoughts at 3 to express wanting to transition? Yeah, exactly.
got swarmed, and I just didn't stop because I'm like, I'll die on this hill.
Yeah, that's a hill to die on.
And so long story short, I make these problematic statements, and then my agent drops me. And
how did your agent drop you for saying a 3-year-old shouldn't be given chemicals that kill his dick and balls?
Because I was rocking the boat, man. And it's like this college, UConn dropped me. I had a good gig, and they said because...
Yeah, of course UConn did, dude. That's honestly not surprising. Connecticut is definitely for that kind of conversation. I mean, it seems like he definitely got shafted here. He stood on business. He was going based mode. He decided to stand on his morals and his values over making money. I mean, good for him. The thing is, you can also kind of get a career in the opposite. At the time, cancel culture was such a big thing, but I think a lot of people definitely rose and created a pretty big career off of opposing cancel culture in the wake of a lot of that stuff.
Because your views, you can't work here, and then...
Did they specifically talk about which views?
Yeah, I even tweeted the email, because I was sick of this shit, man.
Which views?
The trans kids. It's only trans kids. That's my whole thing.
But it's trans babies.
Dude, they're toddlers. They're like...
3.
Dude, it's... And I'll die on the hill, man. I even asked my brother, my buddy.
That's a hill to die on.
Like, dude, I literally was like, I'm unemployed, and he had me like read the That's when you know your friends are, man. He's like, yo, will you read this? You can be like a DA in this fucking murder podcast. I was like, great. He's like, I'll throw you some cash. I thought I was out. I'm like, brother, can I do some more tree work? He's like, 20 an hour, you got boots? I'm like,
But think about that you, as a guy who I've known for a long time, has been a successful professional comedian, are really always that close to being pushed aside and not given work anymore over something that's totally logical.
The shitty thing is not even just that his agent dropped him, but it's that, like, a comedy club felt that it was such a business risk to have him there because of what he said that they kicked him out, right? Because the comedy club ultimately, you know, some comedy clubs and some businesses will have their own, you know, moral perspective on things. And they'll be like, oh, we don't like that guy here. We don't like that guy here, right? But most of these places are businesses that are just trying to make as much money as possible. The fact that the fact that, like, private businesses are so scared of having a guy who basically says something that I feel like the majority of people agree with, the fact they're so scared about having him at their club is insane. Because they didn't even say, like, we have a problem with the fact that he called the NPR guy a child molester, which I would say calling him a child molester is too far because he didn't molest a child. They didn't even say we have a problem with that. They said we don't like that he made comments about marginalized communities. It's like, what marginalized community? A 3-year-old? A 3-year-old should not be on fucking hormones.
dude, I just got in a development deal with like True TV and shit. It's not even like I was doing badly.
Did True TV keep the development deal? Did they ban?
Dude, I don't even have reps anymore.
But do you talk to True TV? Like,
No.
hey, it's Owen.
No, they're cool people. I've just been so like.
So the reps all abandoned you by saying that you don't think 3-year-olds
Well, yeah, and
trannies?
yeah, and also I guess
Sorry,
I was
folks,
saying
if
it.
I crossed the
It was
line
like
by saying trans.
problematic, you know. I was
Sorry, folks.
I was too much. I was poking people that aren't allowed to be poked. These powerful middle managers, you know.
So obviously it is pretty crazy to have your whole career taken away just like that. And I can understand him being worried about how he's going to make money now and what he's going to do. But again, there are a lot of other opportunities out there. And getting canceled as a comedian, then going on the Joe Rogan Experience to talk about it, that's going to help you promote yourself better than anything you do in Hollywood, really.
Sorry,
and then you
folks.
can just go do your own thing. You don't even need to deal with that anymore. So it's pretty much a blessing in disguise. For some people, at least. It didn't really work out like that for Owen. But for example, like Shane Gillis getting canceled and not getting the SNL gig, I'd say that ended up working out pretty well for him. Him getting canceled and not getting that job is probably the best thing that could have happened in that situation.
If I get fired here, whatever, I'll just go do Joe Rogan next week and I'll be fine.
Oh, dude, this part is so brutal because Joe doesn't get it. Joe doesn't get it. He's like, what? Joe doesn't understand that he's like the guy who has like the cancel culture podcast. So when Shane says that, Joe's like, what do you mean?
To happen in that situation.
Dude,
If I get
it's
fired
brutal.
here, whatever, I'll just go do Joe Rogan next week and I'll be fine.
Look at
Anyway,
his
I thought that
smile,
was
dude.
funny.
Oh, Joe doesn't get it, dude. I feel so bad for Shane there. I remember the first time I listened to that, I was like, oh my God, no, no reaction. The way Shane sits there like, eh. I love Shane Gillis, dude. He's so
Rogan
funny.
next week and I'll be fine.
Look at his face. I feel so bad for him, dude. I love Shane Gillis, man. He's like, so fucking bad, man. Oh, man. This proves Joe is unfunny. It definitely proves something. The ape brain was activated that day, I guess, dude. He's just like, The thing about Shane that I like, though, is like, you know, I agree, like, cancel culture is a problem, but I find it very annoying when somebody like won't shut the fuck up about it and it's all they talk about, because it like then creates a market for like constantly talking about being canceled, and it's just like it just gets gay and annoying. Like Shane did get unjustly canceled. He did suffer from it, and he did talk about it, but it didn't become his whole personality, right? Like imagine if Shane Gillis in current day was still talking about SNL. It'd be like, dude, you're rich now. Shut up. I don't care anymore, right? But he stopped talking about it. He just became a comedian. He did what he wanted to do in the first place. He didn't become a culture warrior. And I like that about Shane. I find it very annoying when a comedian has something bad happen to them and then they just won't shut up about politics. It's like, okay, yeah, sometimes comedians are funny. Sometimes they can talk about politics. I get it. I'm not like offended that they talk about it, but it's like you're just dragging it on a little bit. You know what I mean? You're dragging it on.
Anyway, I thought that was funny. No?
What?
I was like, I
Is that what
literally
you thought?
I literally thought that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it'd be funny.
Joe's like, oh, huh, interesting. Didn't understand that. God forbid you fight against those who seek your downfall, coward. You're so annoying, dude. Are you being ironic? God forbid you fight against those who seek your downfall. Yeah, but there's a certain point in time when it's like, okay, you just got to move on. Like, yeah, they suck. They're annoying. Yes, you can talk about it. The people who try to cancel Shane are fucking cringe lords, okay? But at a certain point, it's like, you just got to move on with your life. Like at this point, Shane Gillis is like one of the most famous comedians in the United States. He doesn't need to talk about his downfall anymore. God forbid you fight. Those people, nobody listens to them anymore. They're a fucking meme. Nobody talks about them. No one cares. God forbid you fight against those who orchestrate your downfall. At a certain point, it's like you just got to move on. You just got to let go.
Well, it could have been funny.
Yeah.
Like the way to own your haters is not to constantly talk about them and constantly talk about how annoyed you are. The best revenge, okay, is living to see another good, amazing, bright, beautiful day and succeeding despite the haters.
I was booked up, though.
No, it's fine. It was just funny to truly. That was a conversation I actually had.
Really?
Like, Shane obviously realizes cancel culture has only helped his career. He even admits that. But I'm sure at the time it was kind of nerve-wracking, like, well, he's getting canceled. But in the long run, it worked out very well for him. But it sounds like because of that, he doesn't really want to talk about cancel culture since it did help his career out a lot. And he's probably glad it happened. But he's in front of Joe Rogan, so he has to kind of bash it. Like right here, he's trying to explain why he doesn't want to talk about it. And he calls himself a victim, but while he's saying it, it sounds like he's debating whether or not to say that or say that I'm somebody who benefited from it.
Here's what's uncomfortable about it is I don't want to sound like it's weird for me to rail against cancel culture because I was a victim of it, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean?
Why is it weird for you to rail against
I
it?
don't know. I just it makes me
Seems defensive?
yeah. Yeah, I'd rather just be like, look, if people bring up cancel culture, I'm just like,
Honestly,
happens.
I really believe it's better for you in the long run. I really do. You're a brilliant comedian, and I think your sketches are incredible, and I think it's better that you not get attached to something
Yeah.
that's ultimately corrupting.
and I don't want to be on the other side of it where it's like I'm a free speech guy. It's like, dude, I don't want to be involved in any of this. I
Right.
just want to do comedy.
So that part at the very end there, that's exactly where Owen went wrong. He had the complete opposite of that mindset. It was not about the comedy anymore. It was just all about politics, the culture war, trying to own SJWs on Twitter. And it was like the exact opposite of how Shane handled his cancellation. Owen handled
Yeah, this is the problem. Like it becomes your life, right? Like you don't own these people by constantly talking about them and like acknowledging them as if they're like a real thing that you should talk about and like is deserving of your attention. The way that Shane owns these people is like, dude, imagine how delighted the guy who tried to cancel Shane on Twitter would be if he saw that Shane was still talking about cancel culture. He would love it. But instead, Shane just decided to become a wildly successful, popular comedian. That makes that guy more mad than anything. Like the way you win in these situations is not by constantly talking and endlessly talking about these people. Like you can talk about them. It's important. I agree. It's a problem. And Shane was unjustly canceled. But you just become like a fucking cringe lord culture warrior if you do that endlessly. Thomas, a little different in Shane's case. They weren't ruining 3-year-olds by changing their gender, different scenarios. I mean, the thing is, to be clear, the similarity here is Owen Benjamin got canceled for saying something controversial, which was an opinion in his case. Shane got canceled for saying something controversial, which in his case was a joke. But still, they're still ultimately in the same position where they lose opportunities, but they then get a larger audience they get access to through Joe Rogan, and they have, people who are paying attention to them. They get known for that, right? But the difference is that Shane Gillis wanted to be a comedian. He wanted to be a comedy guy. He didn't want to be an endless culture war guy. Owen Benjamin wanted to be an endless culture war guy. He wanted to just keep going and talking about it and talking about how much he was canceled, right? This is the difference. You have to move on with your life.
his the worst way possible, and it completely destroyed his career. And it wasn't even directly because of cancel culture. It was just the way he handled it all. Like once somebody told him not to say something or do something, he just wanted to do it a billion times more, and he didn't care what it would cost him. It was like he just wanted to offend as many people as possible. And
I do feel sympathy for the black community. I'd probably also feel racially insecure if historically my people's contribution to the world was AIDS, rap, and peanut butter, while the whites and Asians did literally everything else. I get it from the bottom of my heart. Holy shit. Whoa.
and say the edgiest things possible, so then
Yeah,
you'd
that
get
is
banned
pretty edgy, I
eventually,
guess.
and then you'd act like a martyr for comedy and free speech, and then you could complain
Damn.
about how censorship is bad and cancel culture is out of control. It's like a
No one in entertainment wants to get pigeonholed. I mean, some people do, though. Some people do because they know there's an audience that will support them no matter what if they just, like, harp on that same tired old thing, right? Like, there's a comfort in getting pigeonholed, right, that you get. Now, ultimately, you could risk that pigeonholing and try to grow outside of that audience and try to become something bigger, right? But there is a comfort of being pigeonholed where you know no matter what you do, is it going to be hard to break outside of that audience? Yes. Are you going to be stuck doing that one thing? Yes. But you know if you keep doing that one thing, you will get audience support for it. You will get people who like you, right?
a self-fulfilling prophecy, and eventually you're going to offend everybody and nobody's going to have to defend what you're saying, and then you're just going to be left by yourself. It's like he just wanted to be in a perpetual state of being canceled. He never wanted to move past it. He was just obsessed with it. And Joe, he tried to talk to him about it one podcast, and maybe he went about it the wrong way. A lot of the comments actually were sticking up for Owen. They're saying like this is a backhand move from Joe or something, but I think he realized where this was headed. Like Owen was obsessed with being on Twitter, and he's tweeting the N-word like every other day, and you could tell it was just going to get worse and worse from here.
You just got to get off Twitter. You just got to get off Twitter, man. But before I go any further, today's video is sponsored by Gamersupps, the best energy drink in the freaking game. They've got a lot of really good flavors, it tastes great, it's way more affordable than other energy drinks or soda, and they also pay me, which is good because it's me. So be sure to use code TOM to get 10% off at gamersupps.gg. Just click the link down in that video description to tap in with the greatest chug juice ever. All right, now back to the video. Having access to Twitter constantly, I think, is such a mistake. If I had Twitter installed on my phone, there's so much that I would see that would piss me off that I'd just be constantly tweeting about. But I have this rule where I know Twitter is all bullshit and it does not matter and it does nothing good for the world. So I just have this rule where if it's serious, I don't tweet. And sometimes I'll betray that rule and I'll have to like realize that about myself. But generally, just don't tweet. Just don't tweet. If you're going to tweet, it has to be something about skibbity or schmegma or something like that. It should not be some kind of serious thing, because Twitter is not a place for discussion. Twitter is not a place for honest discussion about these subjects. Generally, Twitter is a cesspit for people to take you out of context and clip chimp you and not understand what you're saying intentionally. Like, that's what people on Twitter want. I have no desire to be involved in anything Twitter related, to be honest with you. I uninstalled TikTok today for the same sentiment. Good for you, dude.
But Joe, he didn't really help out here. It seemed like it only made things worse. So maybe he could have handled this a better way. But I think he needs to do this with Jordan Peterson now. He never will, but Jordan Peterson, somebody needs to tell that man to take...
Like, it's so hard to express a nuanced opinion on Twitter. I will say the most inoffensive thing, and then I'll just get a bunch of people in my replies who are like spamming the fuck out of me and like being annoying dorks. It's like, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it.
Take a break on Twitter. He's obsessed with it. He's obsessed with the anonymous troll demons. They definitely got the best of him.
I wanted to talk to you about social media.
Okay.
Because I love you.
I love you too.
I think you're a very good guy. I really do. But you are the worst representative of yourself on social media.
I'm a bad lawyer of myself.
It's a bad form of getting out tricky ideas. It's a bad form. It's just not good. You know, you have to really think about what you're saying.
It's like you're yelling like as you're falling into a well.
It's good that Joe Rogan realizes that. I don't think he like ever tweets. Like if you go on his account, let's see if he even tweets at all. Looks like he tweets an announcement for his podcast, says a huge honor, thank you. Just someone calling him a cracker of the day. He says, I want to believe here. He's not really tweeting anything serious. He's not trying to communicate serious ideas. He just like retweets random shit. We did a podcast with Duncan Trussell. Check it out, right? That's it. He's not trying to give serious takes on Twitter because there's just no benefit. There's no benefit. Twitter is a fucking cesspit to get clip chimped in articles. Ring wrong the bing bong. Thank you for becoming a member.
Oh, you have like one sentence.
But you are without a doubt addicted. And I know you bailed on your phone for a while and you went to a flip phone.
Yeah.
But I see these manic tweets from you, and I just want to go hang out with you and go, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you constantly tweeting? And
when Joe Rogan's telling you you're being too edgy, you know you probably have a serious problem. You know, you should probably shut your mouth.
Attacking people and...
It's like sometimes the chaos helps me. You're right. I mean, you're right.
Right.
Like I'm not challenging that statement, but like I see it as almost like an idea sonar where you're just like...
I get that. I get that, but I get that because I know you. And I know you're a really good dude in real life.
Thanks, man.
So when I see this online and I see these blurting outbreak posts, they're just like, blah, like you got mental diarrhea. I mean,
how can you hate Twitter if you pay attention? You can literally see people own themselves in real time. But that's the point, right? You can either watch people owning themselves in real time or tweet and be owned in real time, or everybody will be convinced you're being owned in real time, right? Twitter is like really funny for like entertainment, to just like scroll through memes and see bullshit. It's funny to like make content out of. It's not a good idea to just constantly tweet. It's not a good idea.
just let me see if I can throw the word
like Twitter could have a lot of hilarious shit on it. Just don't get involved. That's what I'm saying.
For a goof. Let me see if I can, say something that's going to piss people off. And it's just, there's this weird thing you're doing, like this Jeselnik thing. Like you just decided to attack Anthony Jeselnik.
No, I'll tell you this.
Did he attack you?
No, what happened was someone said that they had heard he said I was alt-right, which is like the new insult.
People can believe that. They could believe that you were alt-right. But if someone tells them and they read one of your outrageous tweets, Just
Right.
one or two of them, they would go, oh, this guy's an alt-right comedian. And then they see you with certain people that you've had podcasts with and talked to that might also be lumped in, ridiculously so, like Jordan Peterson. They lump him into
Right.
alt-right.
No, I got you.
It doesn't make any sense, but they do it.
Yeah.
Like, look, I've had people on that people think are alt-right. People just, like, you should attack someone when they do something really bad.
But see,
But you know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. Like the sheath sword until you absolutely need it. I'm all
Yes.
about that. And I wasn't like full attack mode though.
That's
I thought
pretty attack
I was
mode-y.
being playful.
The war has started. You're talking about him getting liposuction, talking about him being gay, and you're talking about you said a bunch of different
Well,
things.
no, but
about
that's
him.
after he said I was alt. In response, he said that I'm an alt-right, third-rate piano comic, and I was like, dude, I just did a liposuction joke. But the
Right,
thing
but-
is, I'm not even mad at the guy at all. Like
But then you again do a terrible job of representing yourself.
That's
then.
I think Joe is hitting on something here, which is that debating people on Twitter is not a good idea. You will not benefit, even if you're the most right person ever. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people on Twitter be clearly, objectively right and be absolutely blown the fuck out for it on Twitter, where Twitter is like full of various echo chambers of schizophrenic people who convince themselves that their opinion is real when it's not, when they're wrong. It's also full of people who are just, they're trolls and they enjoy trolling and they enjoy spreading misinformation for the fun of it. There's just no benefit to engaging. Like, you are not an equal playing field on Twitter. This you have to understand. You're not an equal playing field there. You are not in a world where people are acting in good faith. You are in a world full of people farming engagement for likes, trying to make money from Twitter payouts. It's just not good for you, right? It's just not good. You just shouldn't engage in it. It's not good. And this isn't some like, oh, you're going to get canceled. It's just like, just don't do it. You're not going to benefit. Every side does this. Every side is fucking cancer, but arguing on Twitter. It's bullshit. It's a cesspit. Don't feed the trolls. Make YouTube videos. Do not tweet. It's as simple as that.
Good point.
Because it seems to me, even I had to text you. I'm like, what are you doing?
I know.
Like,
And
why
by
are
the
you
way,
doing
I
this?
just want to give you a compliment. I love that you're more critical offline. Like,
You're not going to save the world or do anything good for the world by tweeting either. Like, you're not going to like embolden the culture war. You're only doing a disservice to yourself and your own side.
you're one of the few people right now in this world that's like, many people are the opposite. They attack online and apologize in the DM, and I just want to say that that's good leadership qualities.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you. But I'm not trying to be a leader. I just try to be a good person. I think
Right.
if you have an issue with someone, you should talk to them in person if you can, if not on the phone, but that one-on-one. Like, this idea that you should automatically blurt out what you think about someone's public mistakes to the rest of the world, to state your position.
It seemed like maybe Joe was getting through to him, but obviously this did not help at all. Probably only made things worse because it's just another person telling him what not to do. And he obviously doesn't handle that very well. And he takes that as just another person being against him. And it just seems like he always wants to be the victim of something. Like, also on this podcast, he started complaining about how he's banned from performing at some art schools in Chicago and Brooklyn. And I just feel like that shouldn't be a surprise to him. Like, if you're throwing around the N-word on Twitter, I don't think those schools are going to have you.
What did you get theaters canceled for?
Well, I booked 2 art schools. I just paid them to rent it, like the area, and I sold it out myself, and then they would just cancel saying that I do hate speech or something.
What
It's
art
insane.
school?
There's one Merritt in Chicago, and then Brooklyn School of Music just canceled on me, and I had to switch it that day.
Oh, Chicago and Brooklyn, though, are like hotbeds. Well, first of all, Chicago is filled with
Oh, dude,
social
and I thought I
social
was safe.
jihadis.
I'm a piano player.
I
I'm
never
like,
say SGW. Social jihadists.
no, dude, and I thought that was like my safe spot.
I
You know,
like
I'm
that
like, dude, I'm
better.
a piano player, man.
Chicago is so full of like.
So I think he probably just thought the more he
In fairness, I do understand his complaint. It is annoying that I do find it annoying that, comedians can't say whatever they want and basically be allowed to perform, right? I do find that annoying. It has obviously become very cringe when you make your entire life about that. But I will say, I empathize with him there. Getting banned from different venues for your tweets is quite annoying. But once again, this is unfortunately the world we live in. Not the world we should live in, but is the world we live in. Tweeting is not a good idea. Will not benefit you, will not help you.
was getting canceled, the more people are trying to silence him, the more Joe would be impressed, the more people would
I would hate to be a part of this legacy media atmosphere where you have to rely on comedy clubs to make a living.
give him praise. I think when Joe told him originally in that clip we were watching about the transgender kid thing, when Joe said that's a good hill to die on, I think
My ex was a communist and went to the protests in Chicago last summer and acted like the CIA was after her. Yeah, I mean, I guess there have been incidents where the CIA has had some involvement and stuff like that, in fucking around with those extremist communities. But at the same time, You know, there is kind of a paranoia that exists where people almost want to be hunted down by the government to feel like they exist in some world where they're in demand and people are going after them, right?
I think he just took that and ran with it, and he thought everything he did, Joe was going to be there to support it. So I think he's disappointed that Joe was kind of questioning what he's doing on Twitter, and he probably took that as Joe trying to silence him, and now Joe's part of the problem. So this was the last podcast he did with Joe in March of 2018, and then I think soon after this, he moved back to New York, and he just started doing his own thing, and I don't think he really does any other appearances now. Maybe he does a podcast here and there, but he's definitely out of that whole Joe Rogan circle, and he started talking a lot of crap about them on this live stream he does. He started trashing Joe and the intellectual dark web, that group he has. It sounds like he hates them now, and some of it's actually pretty funny.
Comedians aren't victims, bro. They have a job to entertain. If they can't adapt to their environments, then they suck. The thing is, like, I just find it annoying that you have to, like, adapting to an environment means, like, never saying what you think or, like, being pressured into getting kicked out of various comedy clubs and venues because you made, like, a controversial tweet. Like, I don't like that that's the world we live in. I don't think that's cool, you know?
Some of the stuff he says.
Of the people that when you're down, they take shots. They take little shots. And when Eric Weinstein, man, when I lost my Twitter is when he told me I was bad for his brand and that we weren't going to be close friends anymore and I was filled with too much chaos. Oh, you think maybe it's because I don't have 126,000 followers that can help spread your shit? Is that maybe not part of it? Or you got a chill, a little shiver that if you speak your mind that the powerful people in Silicon Valley can take it all from me, and that made you a little scared, made you rethink your friendships. Which one is it? Because I know it's not chaos, because you're friends with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's the most chaotic person I've ever met. Granted, he's very disciplined. But he'll be like, oh, dude, today it's all about freezing your dick and shooting a bow and arrow and taking mushrooms, doing comedy, and then shooting guns. Like, okay, so that isn't chaotic? Oh, wait a minute. It's about money and power, huh? And not about ethics and not about doing the right thing or any of this shit. But I'm the bad guy, right? You bunch of coward, intellectual dark web, more like intellectual web.
I feel like this guy's spiraling a little bit. Kind of feel bad for him, bro. You know, when you're sitting in the backyard recording the low quality videos where you're drinking coffee at 7 a.m. in the morning, talking about how your friend didn't answer your message, you're probably having a bad time.
Oh, don't say that word. I mean, listen, we're here for free speech and we're here for free expression, but not these words and not this statement. And if you do this, we won't hang out with you. Oh, and never make fun of Sam Harris because he's our atheist Jesus. Sam Harris is their leader, by the way. Just know that. He's the guy that they all get scared of. Sam Big Ears Harris.
Sam Big Ears Harris. Owen Benjamin lures a trip. Who else remembers the episode where he sat in his backyard screaming about how his dad was gay while he wore a bright yellow rain jacket and had a ridiculous mustache? That sounds like good content. I kind of want to see this. I want to see more Owen Benjamin lore, honestly. This sounds like a really interesting dude. I don't even just want to, like, shit on him. I just find him fascinating. Interesting. I saw Owen Benjamin live at the Louisville Improv before they shut it down. He played piano really well and played Pearl Jam, so when he asked for suggestions, I said, play more Pearl Jam. He didn't play Pearl Jam. This dude has strong divorced dad vibes. I kind of like a good divorced dad once in a while. They're pretty fun.
His mom invented Golden Girls. He's a rich kid from L.A. He was born with a silver spoon. Golden Girls. You know how much money that is? You know how much money he was raised with? That's why he could sit for 20 days in a goddamn no talking retreat in the woods. You want to know why? Because it's a trust fund.
How can you follow Joe Rogan? He's 5'6". What leader? If I was standing in front of Joe Rogan, I would think he disappeared. I would be like, where's my friend Joe Rogan?
That's true. Why is he shitting on Joe now, though? Because he is joking, but it seems to be coming from some sense of some form of vitriol, right? Like, it doesn't seem like it's just like in good fun. It seems like it's like some kind of resentment towards Joe. Did he not bring him back on the podcast? Is that why he's mad?
And someone would be like, way down there. I'd be like, where? No, like, men are right here. Like, where's Joe Rogan? And they're like, no, like, do that. And then I'd way down, I'd see a shiny bald head. And I'd be like, hey, buddy. And I know Joe Rogan could beat the out of me. I know he could buy and sell everything I own. I know that he sells out stadiums and I don't. He speaks lies and he's short. Why do people all act like money does shit? Joe Rogan is not a leader. And I used to follow.
Why does he hate Joe so much?
It's just we're so deficient of leaders. He's 5'6".
He just keeps going. He's 5'6".
Like if he was a king on a horse.
It seems like, I don't know. It seems like Mania a little bit.
Would he, like, if they hadn't invented booster seats or phone books, like how would the soldiers have seen him? Like when he was like, freedom, and they'd be like,
Joe never wanted to be leader. He just wanted to have an effing podcast. I mean, it seems that way to me. It seems to me like, I don't think that Joe Rogan had like some Machiavellian plan to become the greatest podcaster in the world, right? I think Joe just wanted to have a show that was fun and bring his friends on, and it worked out really well for him. But Owen seems very, very bitter here. He seems very, very bitter because of the fact that his career isn't working out and Joe's is. It seems to be a lot of resentment. Short-phobic base, though.
who just said that? Who just said that? Joe is a bully? Of course he's a bully. Of course he's a bully, man. And he's a bully who pretends to be an advocate for the weak. That's why I got so pissed off. It's because I loved him for what he did for me. I loved him for what he said to Carlos Mencia. And then I realized that it's all spells.
And eventually Owen was banned.
What is he even talking about? He sounds schizo. Why does he hate short kings so much? Well, to be fair, if you are short, your opinion is invalid. As a giant man myself, I personally couldn't be caught on that train.
On pretty much every mainstream platform. I think Twitter, he might have gotten that back. I think Elon might have let him back on there. But I don't think anybody really even pays attention to him anymore. They're just like, what happened to that guy? Like, he fell off the map. So Joe actually has mentioned him a few times since his last appearance, and they're falling out. Like, this was about a year after his last appearance, and Joe started talking about him because Owen was on Joey Diaz's podcast one time, and Joey Diaz gave him an edible, and he took it, and he just couldn't handle it. He ended up walking off, and he didn't come back.
No.
And Joe thinks that's maybe something that screwed him up.
Dude, do not give this guy weed. Do not give your friend that's talking about the fucking back rooms in Pizzagate weed. That's such a bad idea. Do not give your cancel culture schizophrenic friend marijuana, man.
What did he give Owen? What did he give Owen?
Oh, I think just one.
He ruined his life.
It would have been about 200 to 250
Yeah,
million.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
think I
God.
heard that
The guy
podcast. You're saying like
opened
250.
the door and went out. Joey made a video, but the day it changed Owen's life. Like, literally, the guy's head up.
Can't handle weed, bro. It's just weed. Dude, weed is a powerful psychoactive drug. If you give someone a lot of weed, especially if they have like schizophrenia, I mean, it's rare, but it can induce a lot of problems. I'm not saying Owen has schizophrenia. But like, if you're already mentally ill, weed can contribute towards very negative factors within your own psyche. There's no doubt about that. That is true. Oh, it's just weed, dude. It's just weed is harmless. Yeah, most things are harmless in small doses. If you have a 250 milligram edible, it might fuck you up.
Like, he went outside and he vanished. He's gone.
That's cannabis psychosis.
Yeah, well, I think there's a real argument to be made, it's particularly with him.
Well,
And then there's another time, I'm not 100% sure if he's referring to Owen here, but just the way he's describing it, it sounds like it could be him.
You become someone who is on stimulants all the time. And I know several people that have an issue. I know one guy has completely lost his fucking mind, thinks everybody's against him, thinks
Is he saying Owen Benjamin's on stimulants?
that everyone's done him wrong, and he's just out there cracked out in the middle of nowhere on fucking Adderall every day.
Really?
And making YouTube videos. And there's a lot of people like that, man. There's a lot of people like that. It is a meth-like drug. It's very, 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 very
Oh, poor guy. Poor guy, dude.
similar to meth.
And then I think he mentioned Owen one more time, and he was actually defending him still about the whole transgender issue.
Owen Benjamin, who is just basically is like in a tinfoil hat somewhere and like living off the grid. He offended a lot of people, right? You're just staring at me.
Yeah, no, I'm listening.
Oh, and he said a bunch of stuff about trans stuff. And I remember there was this girl that I was friends with on social media. Didn't know her, but just followed her because I liked her writing. And I go, what are you talking about? She was like, he said all this stuff that's anti-trans, and I hadn't heard anything.
Well, let me say what he said,
Yeah.
okay? And here's the thing. He went off into a spiral, right? But I agree with what he said. What he said was there was someone that he knew, someone who works in Hollywood, that had a 3-year-old that they were turning trans.
Right.
And he said that that was child abuse. That was what led
I don't disagree
to
with
his
that.
crazy situation.
Totally. This is.
I agree with it 100%.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I agree with him.
It's a child.
100%.
You wouldn't let
Yes.
that child decide what it's eating.
Right.
So that aside, and the spiral aside, which I didn't even participate. Like, it's whatever. Like, those are your choices. That's what you're saying. I had no.
I think Owen Benjamin, I think he needs the most powerful news show in the world. You know, people say he's controversial here, he's controversial there. I think Owen Benjamin needs to be platformed. I think they should replace Joe with Owen Benjamin. Because Joe is obviously sane. Owen Benjamin might be losing his mind. He might be on a mental downward spiral. But if you give him a platform, imagine what could happen. Imagine the amount of chaos that would happen as a result of him just taking over Joe Rogan. Like, it's just going to be the Owen Benjamin experience, and it'll be beautiful. You don't know the kind of things that he could say. You don't know the thing he could say tomorrow. Give him InfoWars, but InfoWars is already like kind of ruined, right? He had the whole Sandy Hook lawsuit. Put him on Joe Rogan. Just replace Joe with him for like a week and see what happens. Give him full creative control over the podcast. What kind of guests is Owen Benjamin going to be bringing on if he has 1 week? Imagine. It could be amazing. I mean, the content would be unreal, frankly. Like you guys, you know, anyone in chat saying like, you know, don't put him on. No, put him on. Put him on. I want to hear it. I want to hear what he has to say. Give him the biggest platform in the world and let him say whatever he wants for a week and just watch the destruction.
No,
but
none of
here's the
this.
thing. That cost him dearly. His agency left him, and then comedy clubs banned him for that. That was the
I
beginning
think he
of
just
it.
steered into that skid.
Well, that's...
Like, you realize if he was on Joe Rogan, we would have years of content from that 1 week. If you replace Joe Rogan with Owen Benjamin for a week and let him decide the guests and let him decide what Jamie pulls up, we'll be talking about it for centuries.
But that's what started the skid.
Right.
What started the
I
skid
think
was
there was
that.
something else about, like, he called someone who had written a... Look, that's not the point of what I was saying.
Things went south afterwards.
You have
for
to
sure.
manage those things.
So that's about it for the Owen Benjamin saga. That's how he canceled himself. He just got way too caught up in the anti-SJW movement. It wasn't really about comedy anymore. It was just about offending as many people as possible. And I'm sure there's some stuff I missed. Let me know down in the comments.
Give him a platform, dude. Make him more famous. What's he up to right now? What's going on in his Twitter? What's going on with Owen Benjamin's Twitter? What's he tweeting about? What's sort of in the zeitgeist for him right now? Let's see. He says, miscommunication is a serious problem. I don't hate Mexicans. I hate tubas. From an uninitiated perspective, the behavior is identical. I don't hate Jews. I hate the sound of nasally, whiny voices, which is my right. He's still going, dude. He's actually still going. God is kind of like a black dad. He loves you. You're just never going to see him. Oh, my God, bro. Dude, he tweets a lot. He tweets a lot, bro. No, dude. He knows the truth. He knows about the tubas. Wait, Joe Rogan publicly said that I, by name, am gay? Dude, give me that video. That's hilarious. Joe Rogan allegedly has dicks falling out of his mouth when he talks. That's the definition of projecting. He says Owen Benjamin is a homo, or is he being sneaky and vague? Because if he says my name, that's literally weeks of nonstop comedy for me. Does this video exist, or is this one of those stupid lies the internet does? Shane Gillis is now like Truman's friend in Truman Show, who's always walking around with a six-pack of Bud Light, awkwardly bringing up how much he drinks and how great Bud Light is. He might have switched to a beer that isn't just liquid estrogen so his face will stop resembling a well-fed Chinese lady. This guy just says, I have a hard time believing that Joe Rogan ever thinks about you, Owen. Owen says he must sleep talk about me on his pod then. Jesus. Why is he still talking about Joe? It's been years. It's been literal years. He made a cartoon. Oh my God. Dude.
I am haunting you. I have a dream today.
Dude, what are we watching?
One day, little Jew boys can sell pornos to little white boys.
What the f*** am I watching?
And if you criticize it, you are called full of hatred. I have a dream today that black men can want to get stanky on the hang low. And we got a abortion clinic on every corner.
I think we've had enough. We need the Owen Benjamin experience now, dude. No, dude. What is going on? What is going on, dude? All right. Shout out to whatever I just experienced. I don't know what I was just put through, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like something just happened to me. Something just happened to me. Okay. He's in deep space now. He cannot make a landing. It seems that way. It certainly seems that way. Watch till the end. I don't think I will, actually, because I'm on YouTube.com. I don't think that I will. Seems like a bad idea. I like having my YouTube channel. Quite a bit, actually. You only scathe the surface of true alt-right content. I'm sure there's a lot below the surface to get into there. I'm sure there's a lot of lore that could be accessed deep in the archives. Deep in the archives. Owen convinced his fans that he was going to establish a utopia-like village for them to live in and then stole the money they paid. Really? Is that true? So edgy it makes your eyes bleed. I feel like my eyes are blessed right now, to be honest. Is the Chungus photo of you edited, or did your face actually swell up that much? It pretty much swelled up that much. I mean, I used like Remini to enhance it a little bit, so it had like a higher pixel count, but it's generally pretty much the same. That's generally what I look like, yes, when I was under the wisdom tooth shit. That's real. That is fucking real.
Bitch, I'm Tom Dart, but my dick is quite light. And this girl that's on my dick, she is not quite white. She's black. You can twist it up and play with it. Whoa. Make a motherfucking movie, Michael Bay with it. Whoa. Gotta promise you not dealing with a baby dick. No. There's a big white cop in your radius.